Seo Park pushed her cleaning cart through the empty hallway of Building C at Westfield University. The wheels squeaked softly against the polished floor. It was 7:15 in the evening, and she had just clocked in for her night shift. The building was quiet now, with most students and professors gone for the day. She was 42 years old with dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her blue janitor uniform was clean and pressed, even though it would get dirty within the first hour of work. Seo took pride in her appearance no matter what job she did. Her mother had taught her that years ago in South Korea. "Evening, Seo," called Tom, the security guard, from his desk near the entrance. He was drinking coffee from a thermos and reading the newspaper. "Good evening, Tom," she replied with a small smile. Her English still carried a slight accent, even after 15 years in America. Tom had worked at the university for 20 years. He knew all the night staff by name. "Building C again tonight?" "Yes, same as always." Seo adjusted the supplies on her cart. Cleaning spray, paper towels, trash bags, a mop, and a bucket. Everything in its proper place. "You're early again," Tom said, glancing at the clock on the wall. Seo shrugged. "I like to start on time." That was not completely true. She arrived early because she had nowhere else to be. Her daughter Minji was at college in another state. Her elderly mother was at home, probably watching Korean dramas on the television. Her two younger siblings had their own lives now. The small apartment felt empty these days, so Seo came to work early. She pushed her cart toward the elevators. Building C housed the mathematics department. 5 floors of lecture halls, classrooms, and professor offices. Seo had cleaned this building for 7 years. She knew every corner, every stain on the carpet, every window that stuck when you tried to open it. The elevator dinged, and she stepped inside. She pressed the button for the 3rd floor. As the doors closed, she caught her reflection in the polished metal. A tired woman looked back at her. When had those lines appeared around her eyes? When had her face become so thin? She pushed the thought away. No point in thinking about such things. The 3rd floor was her favorite. It had the big lecture halls with tall windows that looked out over the campus. During the day, sunlight poured through those windows. At night, you could see the lights of the city in the distance. Sometimes, when she was alone, Seo would stand at those windows and remember different times. She had a routine. Start with the smaller classrooms at the east end of the building. Work her way toward the larger lecture halls at the west end. Finish with the bathrooms and the hallway floors. If she worked steadily, she could finish the entire floor in 3 hours. Then move to the 4th floor. Seo unlocked the first classroom with her master key. 20 desks arranged in neat rows. A whiteboard at the front, covered with equations from the day's lesson. She recognized some of the symbols. Calculus, probably, or maybe differential equations. She erased the board carefully, making sure to get every mark. Some janitors just wiped quickly and left streaks. Not Seo. She cleaned properly. The next professor who used this room would find it perfect. As she worked, her mind wandered. It often did during these quiet hours. She thought about her daughter's last phone call. Minji was doing well in her classes. She wanted to be a lawyer. Seo was proud of her, even though law school would be expensive. They would find a way. They always did. She moved through 3 more classrooms. The work was peaceful. Empty the trash cans. Wipe down the desks. Clean the boards. Sweep the floors. Her hands moved automatically, following patterns they had repeated thousands of times. In her locker downstairs, Seo kept a small photograph. It showed a younger version of herself, wearing a university uniform standing in front of Seoul National University. She was smiling in that photo, holding books against her chest. Her eyes were bright with dreams and possibilities. That girl had believed she would change the world with mathematics. That was a lifetime ago. Seo finished the small classrooms and checked her watch. 8 o'clock. Right on schedule. Now for the lecture halls. She pushed her cart down the hallway, the wheels squeaking their familiar rhythm. Lecture Hall 304 was the largest room on this floor. It could seat 150 students. Professor Mitchell taught advanced calculus there on Monday and Wednesday evenings. Usually his class ended at 8 o'clock sharp. Seo always waited until 8:15 before entering just to be safe. But tonight, as she approached the hall, she heard voices. She paused outside the door, confused. The class should have been over by now. She checked her watch again. 8:16. Maybe they were running late. It happened sometimes. She would come back later. But then she heard Professor Mitchell's voice, loud and frustrated. I apologize, everyone. I made this problem too difficult. Even I'm not sure of the complete solution. Let's just call it a night. Seo Yun's hand was on her cart, ready to wheel it away. She should leave. Come back in 20 minutes when they were gone. That was the professional thing to do, but something made her hesitate. A difficult problem? Professor Mitchell was one of the best mathematics professors at the university. She had seen his awards and certificates on the wall of his office when she cleaned there. What kind of problem would trouble him? She pushed the door open quietly, trying not to disturb anyone. The lecture hall was arranged like a small theater, with rows of seats rising up from the front. About 30 students sat scattered throughout the room, gathering their books and laptops. They looked tired and discouraged. Professor Mitchell stood at the front near the large whiteboard that covered the entire wall. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and glasses. He wore a sweater vest over a button-down shirt. His shoulders were slumped in defeat. Seo Yun kept her head down and started cleaning the back row. Maybe no one would notice her. She could just do a quick job and come back later for a thorough cleaning, but her eyes drifted to the whiteboard. She could not help it. Mathematics had always drawn her attention like a magnet. The board was covered in equations. Complex, beautiful, challenging equations. In the center was a differential equation, circled in red marker. Extra credit, someone had written above it. Solve for the general solution. Seo Yun stopped moving. Her hand gripped the cleaning cloth tightly. She knew this type of equation. She had worked with equations like this many years ago, in a different life. Her mind began working automatically, seeing the patterns, recognizing the form. Professor Mitchell picked up an eraser. Sorry, everyone. This was supposed to be a challenge, not an impossibility. Forget I asked. He started erasing the equation. Seo Yun's heart beat faster. The solution was forming in her mind, clear as day. She could see the steps, the substitutions needed, the path to the answer. It was still there after all these years. The knowledge she thought she had lost was still there, buried but not gone. Her mouth went dry. She should stay quiet. Mind her own business. Do her job and leave. But the equation was disappearing. In 10 seconds, it would be gone from the board. Professor Mitchell would leave. The students would leave. And the solution that was so clear in Seo Yun's mind would go unspoken. She took a step forward, then stopped. The students were filing out now, talking among themselves. That was impossible. I barely understood the first step. Professor Mitchell said it was too hard, so don't feel bad. Professor Mitchell set down the eraser and began gathering his papers. Seo Yun's hands were shaking. The cleaning cloth fell from her fingers to the floor. She had spent 15 years being invisible. 15 years staying quiet, keeping her head down, accepting her place in the world. She had learned not to draw attention to herself. She was just a janitor. Nobody important. Nobody who mattered. But that equation mattered. And deep inside, in a place she had tried to forget, Seo Yun still mattered too. Professor Mitchell noticed her standing there, frozen in the aisle. He looked concerned. Oh, I'm sorry. Do you need us to clear out? We're just leaving. Seo Yun opened her mouth. Her voice came out small and uncertain. The equation. May I see it once more? The professor stopped moving. He stared at her, confused. Around the room, students who were halfway to the door paused and turned around. Seo Yun's face grew hot. What was she doing? This was crazy. She should apologize and go back to her cleaning. But instead, she heard herself say, Please, just for a moment. Professor Mitchell looked at the whiteboard, then back at Seo Yun. His expression shifted from confusion to curiosity. He had been a teacher for too long not to recognize genuine interest when he saw it. Slowly, carefully, he picked up the marker and rewrote the equation. The lecture hall fell silent. 30 students and one professor watched as the janitor stood motionless in the aisle, staring at the whiteboard. Professor Mitchell had just rewritten the equation, his hand still holding the marker. Seo Yun could not move. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum. What had she done? Everyone was looking at her now. She wanted to disappear into the floor, but the equation was there, written in blue marker across the white surface. A second-order linear differential equation with variable coefficients. The kind that looked simple but hid layers of complexity underneath. "Are you interested in mathematics?" Professor Mitchell asked gently. He seemed genuinely curious, not mocking. Seo-yeon nodded slowly. Her throat was too tight to speak. "It's quite a difficult problem," he continued, setting down the marker. "I probably shouldn't have given it to my graduate students. It requires some advanced techniques. Graduate students." Seo-yeon glanced around the room. These people were graduate students working on master's degrees in mathematics. And she was a janitor interrupting their class. A girl in the third row whispered to her friend. "What's happening?" "I don't know," the friend whispered back. Professor Mitchell seemed to realize the awkwardness of the situation. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. We can just, may I try?" The words came out of Seo-yeon's mouth before she could stop them. The room went completely still. Professor Mitchell blinked. "I'm sorry?" Seo-yeon's hands were shaking, but she forced herself to take a step toward the front of the room. Then another step. "May I try to solve it?" She saw the students exchange glances. Some looked amused. Others looked confused. One young man in the front row smiled, not unkindly, as if he thought this was some kind of joke. Professor Mitchell's face showed surprise, but also something else. Respect, maybe. Or at least the willingness to respect. "Of course," he said. "Please." He stepped aside and gestured to the whiteboard. Seo-yeon left her cleaning cart in the aisle. Her legs felt weak as she walked down the steps to the front of the room. This was insane. She should stop right now, apologize and leave, go back to her simple, invisible life. But 15 years of silence pushed her forward. 15 years of cleaning classrooms while equations danced in her head. 15 years of watching other people learn while she mopped floors. She reached the whiteboard. Professor Mitchell held out the marker to her. She took it and her hand steadied. Something about holding a marker in front of a whiteboard felt right, like coming home after a long journey. She looked at the equation, really looked at it. The room was so quiet she could hear the clock on the wall ticking. 31 people watched her. 31 people waited to see what the janitor would do. Seo-yeon touched the marker to the board and began to write. First, she recognized the form. This was a Cauchy-Euler equation in disguise. The variable coefficients had a specific pattern. She wrote the substitution that would transform it into a simpler form. Her handwriting was neat and clear, the numbers and letters flowing naturally. She heard someone in the audience inhale sharply. The substitution changed the equation into something more manageable. Now she could see the characteristic equation. She wrote it out, solving for the roots. Her mind worked quickly, seeing 3 steps ahead like playing chess. The roots were complex. That meant the solution would involve trigonometric functions. She wrote the general form, then worked backward to the original variables. Her hand moved steadily across the board. She filled one section, then moved to another. The marker made soft squeaking sounds against the smooth surface. Behind her, the room remained silent. But it was a different kind of silence now. Not awkward or confused, focused, intent. Seo-yeon was barely aware of the audience anymore. She was lost in the mathematics and the pure logic and beauty of it. This was the feeling she had missed for 15 years. The feeling of her mind working at full capacity, solving puzzles, finding patterns, making connections. She checked her work, found a small error in the 3rd line, erased it with her hand, rewrote it correctly, continued forward. The solution was emerging. The general solution with 2 arbitrary constants, as expected for a second-order equation. She verified each step in her mind before writing it down. No mistakes, no shortcuts. 8 minutes had passed, though Seo-yeon did not know it. To her, it felt like both seconds and hours. She wrote the final line. The complete solution, properly formatted, clearly explained. Then she stepped back from the board. Her hand was covered in blue marker ink. She realized she had used her palm to erase that small error instead of looking for an eraser. Old habits from university. When she would get so focused, she forgot about everything else. She turned around slowly to face the room. Professor Mitchell stood 5 feet away, staring at the whiteboard. His mouth was slightly open. His eyes moved across the lines of mathematics, reading each step. The students were equally still. The young man who had smiled earlier was not smiling anymore. He was leaning forward in his seat, his eyes wide. Seo-yeon's face burned with embarrassment. Had she made a mistake? Had she gotten it completely wrong? She started to apologize. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have. Wait, Professor Mitchell said, holding up one hand. He moved closer to the board, reading carefully. Seo-yeon stood there, feeling exposed and foolish. She should never have done this. She should have stayed in the back of the room with her cleaning cart where she belonged. Professor Mitchell traced one line with his finger, following her logic. Then the next line. Then the next. The substitution, he murmured. Of course. Transform it first, then. He moved to the middle section. Yes, that's right. He reached the end of the solution and just stood there staring. The silence stretched out. Seo-yeon wanted to run from the room. Then Professor Mitchell turned to face her. His eyes were bright behind his glasses. This is correct, he said quietly. What? Said a girl in the back row. Professor Mitchell raised his voice. This solution is completely correct. The room erupted. Students leaned forward, pulled out their phones, started talking all at once. How did she— Wait. Let me see. She did it in like 8 minutes. I don't even understand the first step. Professor Mitchell held up his hands for quiet. The students settled down, but the energy in the room had changed completely. Everyone was alert now, excited. He turned back to Seo-yeon. His voice was gentle but firm. I need to know. Where did you learn to do this? Seo-yeon's mind raced. She could make up something. Say she had taken a class once. Say she liked to study mathematics as a hobby. Keep the story simple and vague. But she was tired. So tired of hiding. I was a student, she said quietly. Long time ago. Where? Seoul National University.
In South Korea. Professor Mitchell's eyebrows rose.
Seoul National University was one of the best schools in Asia, especially for mathematics and science. What did you study? He asked. Seo-yeon hesitated. The words felt strange in her mouth, like speaking a language she had not used in years. Mathematics. Doctoral program. I studied differential equations. The room exploded again with whispers and exclamations. A young woman in the second row raised her hand. You have a PhD in mathematics? No, Seo-yeon said quickly. I didn't finish. Why not? Professor Mitchell asked, and there it was. The question she had avoided for 15 years. The question she could barely ask herself late at night when sleep would not come. Seo-yeon looked at the floor. Family problems. I had to leave school. Professor Mitchell waited, giving her space to continue or stop. He was good at that, she realized. Knowing when to push and when to wait. A good teacher. Seo-yeon took a breath. If she had already exposed this much, she might as well tell the whole story. My father had a business in Seoul, she began. Import and export. It was successful for many years. I was in my final year of doctoral studies. I was writing my dissertation. She paused, gathering the memories. Then the Asian financial crisis happened. 1997. My father's business collapsed in 3 months. He lost everything. Our house. His savings, everything. The students were completely silent now, listening. My mother got sick around the same time. Cancer. She needed treatment, but we had no money. My father was broken. He couldn't work. He just sat in our apartment all day. Seo-yeon's voice remained steady, but her hands were clenched tight. I was the oldest child. I had 2 younger siblings still in school. Someone had to take care of the family. Professor Mitchell said softly. So you left your program? Yes. I worked for 2 years in Seoul, any job I could find. Saved money. Then my uncle in America offered to sponsor us. He said there were opportunities here. So we came. My whole family. When was this? Asked Professor Mitchell. 15 years ago. I was 27. A boy in the 4th row did the math quickly. So you're 42 now? Seo-yeon nodded. And you've been working as a janitor all this time? Not all the time. First I worked in a restaurant. Then a factory. Then I got this job 7 years ago. It pays better. Has health insurance. She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity. Professor Mitchell shook his head slowly. Have you thought about going back? Finishing your degree? Because it's a waste, Dr. Chen said bluntly. You're brilliant and you're cleaning floors. That's a waste of your mind, your training, your potential. I chose this life, did you? Professor Mitchell asked gently. Or did circumstances choose it for you? Seo-yeon felt tears burning in her eyes. She blinked them back. I don't know if I can do it. Study again. Keep up with younger students. It's been so long. So we start slowly, Dr. Chen said. Audit 1 class. See how it feels. No commitment. My mother, can we help with that too? Adult daycare services? We have resources for employees with family care responsibilities. Seo Yan's mind was spinning. Part of her wanted to jump at this chance. But another part, the practical part that had kept her family fed and housed for 15 years, knew it was risky. What if she failed? What if she couldn't keep up? What if this was all a mistake? I need to think, she said finally. Of course, Dr. Chen said. Take a week. But Ms. Park, I want you to know something. Professor Mitchell has taught here for 23 years. In all that time, he's never called me at 8:30 in the evening about a student. Never. Not once. She paused, letting that sink in. Until tonight. Seo Yan looked at Professor Mitchell. He smiled at her, a kind, genuine smile. What you did tonight, he said. I've been teaching for over 2 decades. I've seen thousands of students. Smart students from top schools. Students who got perfect scores on every test. But I've never seen anyone solve that problem so quickly and elegantly. Never. It was just one problem, Seo Yan whispered. It was more than that. It was the way you approached it. The way you saw the solution. The way your hand moved without hesitation once you started. You weren't guessing. You were creating. That's not something you can teach. That's a gift. Seo Yan felt the tears again, stronger this time. She couldn't hold them back. They spilled down her cheeks and she wiped at them angrily with the back of her hand, smearing blue marker ink across her face. Dr. Chen pulled a tissue box from her desk and handed it to Seo Yan silently. I gave up, Seo Yan said through tears. I gave up my dreams. I told myself it was okay, that family was more important, and it was. But it hurt. Every day for 15 years it hurt. I know, Dr. Chen said softly. You can't know. You have your PhD, your career, your office with your name on the door. I came to America from Shanghai when I was 25, Dr. Chen said quietly. I had $50 in my pocket and no English. I worked in a factory for 3 years before I could afford community college. Then 2 more years before I transferred to a university. I got my PhD when I was 38. So yes, Ms. Park, I know. Seo Yan looked up at her in surprise. Dr. Chen smiled. We all have our stories. The question is, does your story end here? Or is this a new chapter? Seo Yan wiped her eyes. Her hands were shaking. I'm scared. Good, Professor Mitchell said. You should be. Anything worth doing is scary. What if I fail? What if you succeed? Dr. Chen countered. Seo Yan stood up, her legs unsteady. I need to go. I need to finish my work. I need to think. Take your time, Dr. Chen said. We'll be here. Seo Yan walked to the door, then turned back. Why? She asked. Why do you care what happens to me? I'm nobody. Just a janitor, Dr. Chen met her eyes. Because I was you. 30 years ago I was you, and someone gave me a chance. Now it's my turn to give someone else that chance. Seo Yan did not sleep that night. She finished her shift at the university, cleaning every floor of Building C with mechanical precision. Her mind was elsewhere, replaying the conversation with Dr. Chen and Professor Mitchell over and over. When she got home at 2 in the morning, her mother was asleep in the small bedroom they shared in the apartment. Seo Yan changed out of her uniform quietly and lay down on the couch. She stared at the ceiling, watching shadows from the streetlight outside move across the walls. Could she really go back to mathematics? After 15 years? She thought about her daughter, Minji, sleeping in a dorm room 3 states away. She was paying for that dorm room, that education, with her 2 jobs. If she quit the morning cleaning job to take classes, how would she make up the money? But Dr. Chen had mentioned a different position. Flexible hours, better pay. Seo Yan turned over on the couch, pulling the thin blanket around her shoulders. It was too good to be true. Things like this did not happen to people like her. At 5:30 in the morning, her alarm went off. Time for her morning job. She dragged herself up, exhausted. Her mother was awake, sitting at the small kitchen table, drinking tea. You came home late, her mother said in Korean. She was 72 with white hair and a thin frame. Cancer treatment 10 years ago had left her weak but alive. Work was busy, Seo Yan replied, also in Korean. She did not mention what had happened. Not yet. You look tired. I'm always tired, Oma. Her mother sighed. You work too hard. It's not good for your health. Seo Yan kissed her mother's forehead. I have to go. There's rice in the cooker, kimchi in the fridge. I'll be back at noon. She took the bus downtown to the office building where she worked mornings. 5 floors of corporate offices. She cleaned bathrooms, emptied trash, vacuumed carpets. The work was mindless, which was good. She could think while she worked. What would Minji say if Seo-yeon told her about last night? Would she be proud? Or would she be worried about the money? Seo-yeon's phone buzzed in her pocket. A text message from an unknown number. Ms. Park, this is Professor Mitchell. I wanted to follow up on our conversation. Would you be able to meet tomorrow during your lunch break? My office, noon. No pressure, just to talk more. Please let me know. As Seo-yeon stared at the phone. She should say no. Politely decline. Forget this ever happened. Instead, she texted back, "Okay, I will come." The next day, she finished her morning shift and took the bus directly to the university instead of going home. She had not told her mother where she was going. She did not want to explain, not until she understood what was happening herself. Professor Mitchell's office was on the 4th floor of Building C. Seo-yeon had cleaned it many times, but had never paid attention to the details. Now, standing outside the door at exactly noon, she noticed everything. The nameplate, Dr. Robert Mitchell, Professor of Mathematics. The photos on the wall outside his door. Mathematical conferences. Award ceremonies, graduation pictures. She knocked softly. "Come in," his voice called. She opened the door. Professor Mitchell sat behind his desk, which was covered with papers and books. But there was someone else in the room, too. Dr. Chen sat in one of the visitor chairs. Seo-yeon hesitated. "I'm sorry. I didn't know. Please come in," Dr. Chen said warmly. "We wanted to talk to you together." Seo-yeon entered and sat in the other chair. She still wore her cleaning uniform from the morning job. She felt very aware of this sitting across from 2 professors in their professional clothes. Professor Mitchell noticed her glancing at her uniform. "You came straight from your other job?" "Yes, I only have an hour for lunch." "We'll be quick," Dr. Chen said. "We wanted to present you with a concrete proposal. Something specific, not just vague ideas." She pulled out a folder from her briefcase and opened it. Inside were papers with official university letterhead. "We've been working with human resources," Dr. Chen began. "We can offer you a position as an educational support specialist in the mathematics department. The job would involve assisting with course materials, tutoring students, helping professors with research tasks, and maintaining departmental resources." "I don't understand," Seo-yeon said. "What does that mean?" Professor Mitchell smiled. "It means you would help students who are struggling with math. Grade some papers, organize study sessions, help me prepare materials for my classes, things like that. But I'm not qualified." "You're more qualified than you think," Dr. Chen said. "The position requires strong mathematical knowledge and the ability to explain concepts clearly. You demonstrated both of those things the other night." She slid the papers across the desk. "The salary would be $38,000 per year. Full-time, but with flexible hours. Health insurance, 2 weeks vacation, and most importantly, free tuition benefits. You could take courses without paying." Seo-yeon looked at the numbers on the paper. $38,000. That was more than she made working both her jobs combined, and health insurance that was better than what she currently had. "This can't be real," she whispered. "It's real," Professor Mitchell said. "The position is real. It's been approved by the dean. We're offering it to you." Seo-yeon's hands trembled as she held the papers. "Why me? There must be students who want this job. People with degrees." "We want someone who understands struggle," Dr. Chen said quietly. "Someone who knows what it's like to fight for education. Someone who can relate to students who are working 2 jobs while going to school. Someone who won't give up on them," she paused. "Most importantly, we want someone brilliant." "And you are brilliant, Ms. Park." Seo-yeon shook her head. "I was brilliant once, maybe, but that was long ago." "It was 3 nights ago," Professor Mitchell corrected. On that whiteboard, Seo-yeon looked down at the papers again. The job description, the salary, the benefits. It looked perfect. Too perfect. "What if I'm not good at it?" she asked. "What if I can't help the students? What if I've been away from mathematics too long?" "Then we'll work together to get you back up to speed," Professor Mitchell said. "Look, Seo-yeon, can I be honest with you?" She nodded. "I've been teaching for 23 years. I've seen hundreds of graduate students come through this department. Many of them are smart. Some are very smart. But genius? True mathematical genius? I've seen it maybe 5 times," he leaned forward. "You're the 6th," as Seo-yeon felt heat rising in her cheeks. You don't know that. One problem doesn't mean it wasn't just the problem. It was how you saw it, how you approached it, the elegance of your solution, the way you checked your work instinctively. Those are signs, markers of someone who doesn't just do mathematics but understands it at a deep level. Dr. Chen added, "We're not asking you to be perfect. We're asking you to try. Take this job. Audit a class or two. See how it feels. If it doesn't work out, no harm done. No harm," Seo-yeon said. "I would quit my other jobs. What if this doesn't work and I have no way to support my family?" "The job is permanent," Dr. Chen said. "Unless you choose to leave, you would keep working here. The educational part is optional. If you decide classes are too much, you just continue with the job itself." Seo-yeon looked at both of them. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course," Professor Mitchell said. "Are you doing this because you feel sorry for me? Because of my story?" Dr. Chen met her eyes directly. "We're doing this because you're talented and that talent is being wasted. Yes, your story matters. It helps us understand who you are. But if you had solved that equation and given us a story about having a PhD and being a full professor somewhere else, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We're offering this because we saw your ability, and we want to help you use it." Professor Mitchell added, "Also, our department needs help. We're understaffed. Students struggle. Having someone like you around, someone who can explain things clearly and patiently, would benefit everyone." Seo-yeon was quiet for a long moment. She thought about her mother at home waiting for her. She thought about Minji studying hard in another state. She thought about 15 years of cleaning, of pushing aside dreams of being invisible. "Can I think about it?" she asked. "For a few days?" "Take a week," Dr. Chen said. "The position will wait." Seo-yeon stood up, taking the folder with her. "Thank you for this. Even if I say no, thank you for seeing me." "We see you," Professor Mitchell said softly. "We see exactly who you are." Seo-yeon left the office and walked to the elevators in a daze. The folder felt heavy in her hands, weighted with possibility. On the bus home, she opened it and read through everything carefully. The job description, the salary details, the benefits package. It was all real. Official papers, real numbers. When she got home, her mother was napping. Seo-yeon sat at the kitchen table and called Minji. "Mom," her daughter answered, surprised. "Is everything okay? You never called during the day." "Everything is fine," Seo-yeon said in English. Minji preferred English now after growing up in America. "I need to tell you something. Something strange happened." She told Minji the whole story. The equation, the solution, the job offer, everything. When she finished, there was silence on the other end of the line. "Minji, are you there?" "Mom," her daughter said, and her voice sounded thick with emotion. "Why are you even hesitating?" "This is amazing, because I'm scared of what? Failing. Letting you down, not being able to pay for your school. Mom, this job pays more than what you make now. That's not letting me down. But I would be a student again, at 42, so what?" Minji said fiercely. "Mom, you gave up your dreams for us. For me, for Grandma, for Uncle and Aunt. You've been cleaning floors for 15 years. If you don't take this chance, I'll never forgive you." Seo-yeon was startled. "Minji, I mean it. You think I don't know what you sacrificed? You think I haven't noticed how tired you are? How you work 2 jobs and never complain? How you pay for my college even though it's hard?" Minji was crying now, Seo-yeon could hear it. "I always felt guilty, like I was taking your life from you. If you don't do this, that guilt will never go away. Please, Mom, do this for you. For once in your life, do something for yourself." Seo-yeon felt tears on her own cheeks. "What if I'm not good enough anymore? You solved a problem that a room full of graduate students couldn't solve. In 8 minutes. Mom, you're good enough. You were always good enough. The world just convinced you otherwise." After they hung up, Seo-yeon sat at the table for a long time. Her mother woke from her nap and shuffled into the kitchen. "Why are you crying?" she asked in Korean, as Seo-yeon wiped her eyes. "I have something to tell you, Amma." She explained everything in Korean. Her mother listened carefully, her old hands wrapped around a cup of tea. When Seo-yeon finished, her mother was quiet. Then she said, "When you left Seoul National University, I thought I would die from guilt." "Amma, no. Let me finish. I thought I ruined your life. You were so bright, so talented, and because I got sick, because your father failed, you had to give up everything." Her mother's eyes were wet. "I have carried that guilt for 15 years. Every time I see you come home exhausted, every time you miss sleep to work, I think this is my fault. It's not your fault, Seoyeon said firmly. Then take this job. Take this chance. Give me peace, my daughter. Let me know that your sacrifice wasn't permanent, that you can still have your dreams. Seoyeon reached across the table and took her mother's hands. They sat together in silence as afternoon light filled the small kitchen. That evening, Seoyeon sent an email to Dr. Chen from the computer at the local library. Dear Dr. Chen, I have thought about your offer carefully. I would like to accept the position. When can I start? Seoyeon's first day in her new position was scheduled for Monday, 2 weeks after that night in the lecture hall. She needed time to give proper notice at both her jobs and to prepare mentally for this enormous change. But on Thursday morning, 3 days after she accepted the offer, something unexpected happened. She was eating breakfast with her mother when her phone started buzzing. Text messages, one after another. She picked up the phone, confused. The messages were from numbers she did not recognize. Is this the janitor from the math department? Are you the woman who solved the equation? This is amazing. Your story is so inspiring. Seoyeon stared at the phone. What is happening? She opened her email. 27 new messages, most from addresses she did not know. She opened one. Dear Ms. Park, I saw the article about you in the student newspaper. Your story brought me to tears. I am a returning student myself, and you give me hope. Article? What article? She opened her laptop and searched Westfield University janitor. The results appeared immediately. Janitor solves impossible math problem. Reveals secret past as doctoral student. From cleaning floors to solving equations, the inspiring story of Seoyeon Park. Hidden genius. How one night changed everything for university janitor. There were dozens of articles. The student newspaper. The local news website. Regional news sites. Even a few national outlets. Someone had written about her. Someone had shared her story. Seoyeon felt panic rising in her chest. She clicked on the student newspaper article. There was a photo, not of her face, thankfully, but of the whiteboard with her solution. The article told the whole story. The lecture hall, the equation, her revelation about Seoul National University. Ms. Park, who has been cleaning our classrooms for 7 years, turned out to be a hidden mathematical genius, the article said. Students who were present described the moment as surreal and inspiring. Professor Mitchell confirmed that her solution was not only correct but showed advanced understanding rarely seen even among graduate students. The article continued, with quotes from students who had been there that night. Then it mentioned her background, her abandoned PhD, her family sacrifices, her 15 years of working multiple jobs. The mathematics department has offered Ms. Park a position that will allow her to return to her passion while supporting her family. Dr. Elizabeth Chen, department chair, stated, talent like this should never be wasted. We're honored to help Ms. Park continue her journey in mathematics. Seoyeon's hands were shaking. She had not wanted this attention. She had wanted to quietly accept the job and move forward without people knowing her story. But it was too late. Her phone kept buzzing. More messages. More emails. Uma, she said to her mother in Korean. I think I'm in trouble. Her mother looked at the laptop screen, squinting at the English words she could barely read. What does it say? Seoyeon translated. Her mother's face changed from confusion to surprise to pride. This is good, her mother said. People should know your story. No, it's not good. I don't want to be famous. I just want to work quietly. But the attention kept growing. By afternoon, the story had spread to social media. Students were sharing it. Parents were sharing it. Teachers were sharing it. The hashtag #JanitorMathGenius was trending locally. Seoyeon's phone rang. An unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Hello? Ms. Park? This is Jennifer Wilson from Channel 7 News. We'd love to interview you about your incredible story. Would you be available? Seoyeon hung up. Her heart was pounding. Another call. Another news station. She stopped answering. That evening, Dr. Chen called. Seoyeon answered, hoping for guidance. I'm so sorry, Dr. Chen said immediately. I had no idea the story would spread like this. One of the students wrote it for the campus newspaper. It was picked up from there. I don't want to be on television, Seoyeon said. I don't want people staring at me. You don't have to talk to anyone you don't want to. But Seo-yeon, I need to tell you something else. Something good happened because of this attention. What? Students started a crowdfunding campaign to help support you while you study. It's already raised $12,000. Seo-yeon felt dizzy. What? Why would they do that? Because your story touched people. Students, professors, community members. They want to help. I don't need charity, Seo-yeon said stiffly. It's not charity. Think of it as a scholarship. People investing in talent and potential. Many of the donors are former students who had help when they needed it. They want to pay it forward. Seo-yeon sat down heavily on her couch. $12,000. That was almost 4 months of her old salary from both jobs. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. Just accept it graciously and use it to make your transition easier. Maybe you can work fewer hours. Spend more time studying. After they hung up, Seo-yeon looked at the crowdfunding page on her laptop. Hundreds of people had donated. $5, $10, $20, some larger amounts. Each donation had a message. Your story inspired my daughter to study harder. I was a non-traditional student too. This brought back memories. Good luck. My mother sacrificed everything for our family. I see her in you. Mathematics needs more diverse voices. Thank you for not giving up. Seo-yeon read message after message, tears streaming down her face. She had spent 15 years being invisible. Now suddenly people saw her. Really saw her. The next day, something even more unexpected happened. She received an email from South Korea, from Seoul National University, from Professor Kim Jin-ho, who had been her advisor when she was a doctoral student. Dear Seo-yeon, I saw the news about you on Korean social media. After all these years, I finally know what happened to you. I never forgot you. You were one of the most talented students I ever taught. Your dissertation work on economic modeling was ahead of its time. I am so proud to see you returning to mathematics. If I can help in any way, please let me know. Your old professor, Kim Jin-ho. Seo-yeon sat at the library computer reading the email over and over. Professor Kim remembered her. After 15 years, he remembered her. She wrote back, her fingers trembling on the keyboard. Dear Professor Kim, thank you for your kind words. I often thought about my unfinished dissertation. Life took me in a different direction. But I never stopped loving mathematics. I hope I can make you proud. Your former student, Seo-yeon. His response came within an hour. It was morning in Korea. You already make me proud. The fact that you solved that differential equation so quickly tells me you never really left mathematics. It was always in you, waiting. I have sent you some papers I think you will find interesting. Recent work on economic modeling using the approaches you were developing in your dissertation. The field has moved forward, but your insights were foundational. Perhaps one day you will finish what you started. Your work deserved to be completed. Seo-yeon downloaded the papers he sent. That night, after her shift at the university, she stayed up reading them. Advanced mathematics, complex models, new techniques built on old foundations, and she understood them. Every equation, every proof, every conclusion. The knowledge was still there, deep in her brain, waiting to be used. The weekend came, and with it, more attention. A professor from another university emailed, offering to mentor her long distance. A mathematics journal asked if she would write about her experience. A women in STEM organization invited her to speak at their conference. Seo-yeon declined most requests. She was not ready for that kind of public role. But she accepted the mentorship offer and agreed to consider the journal article later. On Sunday afternoon, her daughter Min-ji called, excited. Mom, did you see? You're on Reddit. There's a whole thread about you. Thousands of comments, people saying you inspired them. I don't know what Reddit is, Seo-yeon admitted. Min-ji laughed. It's a website. Never mind. The point is people love your story, and Mom, some of the comments are from other Korean Americans, talking about their parents' sacrifices, about immigration struggles. You're representing all of us. Seo-yeon felt the weight of that. She had never tried to represent anyone. She had just tried to survive. That's too much pressure, she said. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be yourself. That's enough. Monday morning arrived, Seo-yeon's first official day in her new position. She dressed carefully in plain black pants and a blue sweater. Professional but not fancy. She looked at herself in the bathroom mirror. The same face as always. But something in her eyes was different. A spark that had been missing for years. Her mother hugged her at the door. I'm proud of you, she said in Korean. I haven't done anything yet, Uma. You took the first step. That's everything. Seo Yan arrived at the mathematics department at 8 in the morning. Dr. Chen met her in the main office and showed her to her desk. It was in a shared workspace with other teaching assistants and research assistants. A real desk with a computer, a phone, and a nameplate that read, Seo Yan Park, Educational Support Specialist. She touched the nameplate, hardly believing it was real. We have a meeting at 9, Dr. Chen said. Department staff meeting. I'll introduce you to everyone. The meeting room was full of professors, graduate students, and administrative staff. About 30 people. When Seo Yan walked in with Dr. Chen, the room went quiet. Then someone started clapping, others joined in. Soon the entire room was applauding. Seo Yan's face burned with embarrassment. She did not know where to look. Dr. Chen smiled and gestured for quiet. Everyone, this is Seo Yan Park, our new educational support specialist. Many of you have read about her already, but I want to be clear. Seo Yan is not here as a curiosity or a news story. She's here because she's talented, dedicated, and will be an asset to our department. Please treat her as you would any colleague. The professors nodded. A few smiled warmly at Seo Yan. Professor Mitchell spoke up. Seo Yan, we're glad you're here. If you need anything, any of us will help. We're a community. A young woman raised her hand. Will you be teaching any classes? Seo Yan shook her head quickly. Not yet. Maybe never. I'm here to support others. She'll be auditing my advanced calculus course, Professor Mitchell added, and helping with undergraduate tutoring sessions. An older professor, a man with a white beard, said, I heard you studied at Seoul National University. I have a colleague there. Professor Lee, do you know him? Professor Lee Dong-wook? Seo Yan asked. He taught topology. Yes, I took his class. The professor grinned. Small world. I'll email him and tell him you're here. The meeting continued with normal department business. Budget discussions. Course schedules. Research updates. Seo Yan listened, taking notes, feeling like she was learning a new language. The language of academia. The language of her old life. After the meeting, several people approached her. A young teaching assistant named Tyler offered to show her the computer systems. A professor named Dr. Rodriguez invited her to a study group on differential equations. A graduate student named Sarah asked if Seo Yan would look at her dissertation chapter when she had time. By lunchtime, Seo Yan's head was spinning. So many names, so many faces, so much information. She ate lunch in the department break room. A few other people were there, eating and talking. They included her in their conversation naturally, asking her opinion on teaching methods and student struggles. For the first time in 15 years, Seo Yan felt like she belonged somewhere. Not as a worker in the background, but as a person who mattered. That afternoon, she attended her first tutoring session. 5 undergraduate students struggling with calculus. They sat around a table in a study room looking stressed and overwhelmed. Seo Yan introduced herself simply. I'm here to help. Show me where you're stuck. A girl with purple hair pushed her textbook forward. I don't understand derivatives of inverse functions. The textbook explanation makes no sense. Seo Yan looked at the problem. She picked up a marker and went to the small whiteboard in the room. Okay, let's start simple. What is a function? She spent an hour with them, breaking down complex ideas into simple pieces, using examples, drawing pictures, checking their understanding constantly. The students relaxed as they began to understand. By the end of the session, they were smiling. That was so helpful, the girl with purple hair said. You explain things better than my professor. Your professor knows more than me, Seo Yan said. I just remember what it's like to be confused. When they left, Tyler, the young teaching assistant, approached her. He had been watching from a desk in the corner. That was really good, he said. You're a natural teacher. I just answer questions. No, you do more than that. You make them feel safe to ask questions. That's a gift. Seo Yan did not know what to say. She had never thought of herself as a teacher. But helping those students had felt right. Natural that evening, she attended Professor Mitchell's advanced calculus class as a student. She sat in the back row, notebook open, feeling nervous. But when the mathematics started, something clicked. Her brain engaged. She followed every proof, every example, every explanation. She even saw a shorter way to solve one problem, though she did not speak up. After class, Professor Mitchell called her over. How was it? Good, really good. I understood everything. I noticed you made a face during problem 3. Did you find an error? No, just a different approach. Maybe shorter. Show me. Seo Yan hesitated, then showed him her notes. His eyes widened. That is shorter. And more elegant. Can I use this in next week's class? It's your class, but it's your insight. I'll credit you. Seo Yan walked home that night feeling lighter than she had in years. Her body was tired, but her mind was alive, buzzing with equations and ideas and possibilities. She thought about the day, the meeting, the tutoring session, the class. She had done it. She had stepped back into mathematics. And she had not failed. She had not fallen apart. She had belonged. When she got home, her mother was still awake watching television. How was your first day? She asked in Korean. Seo Yan sat down next to her mother on the couch. She rested her head on her mother's shoulder, something she had not done since she was a child. It was the best day I've had in 15 years, she said softly. 2 years later, Seo Yan stood in the doctoral student workroom, surrounded by papers and books. Her comprehensive exams were in 1 week. 8 hours of written examinations covering all areas of advanced mathematics. Pass and she would officially become a PhD candidate. Fail and she would have to retake them in 6 months. She was terrified. You're going to do great, Tyler said, stopping by her desk. He had finished his master's degree and was now working on his own PhD. They were colleagues now, both doctoral students. I don't feel ready. Nobody feels ready for comprehensive exams. That's normal. Seo Yan looked at the stack of practice problems. Analysis, algebra, topology, differential equations, numerical methods. So much material, but she had studied. For 2 years she had taken courses, worked problems, written papers. She knew this material. She just had to trust herself. The exam week arrived, 8 hours over 2 days. Seo Yan sat in a room with 5 other students taking their comprehensive exams. They were all younger than her, but that did not matter anymore. She had stopped comparing herself to others. She opened the first exam booklet. 15 questions. She read through them all, feeling her anxiety rise. These were hard questions. Then she took a deep breath and started with the easiest one. Just focus on one problem at a time. Her hand moved across the page, writing equations, drawing diagrams, constructing proofs. The hours passed. Her hand cramped. Her back ached, but her mind stayed sharp. After 2 days, the exams were over. She went home exhausted and slept for 12 hours straight. 3 weeks later, Dr. Chen called her into her office. Professor Mitchell was there too. Seo Yan's heart pounded. This was it. The results. Sit down, Dr. Chen said, smiling. Seo Yan sat, trying to read their faces. You passed, Professor Mitchell said. Seo Yan exhaled. I passed? Not just passed. You scored in the top 10%. Your solutions were elegant and thorough. The committee was extremely impressed. Seo Yan covered her face with her hands. Relief and joy washed over her. Congratulations, Dr. Chen said warmly. You're officially a PhD candidate. Now comes the fun part, your dissertation. Over the next 6 months, Seo Yan worked on her dissertation proposal. She wanted to return to her original topic from 20 years ago, mathematical models for economic systems. But now she had a new angle. She proposed modeling economic recovery for immigrant families, using differential equations to predict how families rebuilding from financial crisis could achieve stability. It was personal, drawing from her own experience, but it was also rigorous, grounded in solid mathematical theory. She presented her proposal to the faculty committee. 6 professors sat around a table asking questions, challenging her assumptions, probing her methodology. Seo Yan answered each question confidently. She had lived this topic. She understood it from both the mathematical and human perspective. At the end of the presentation, the committee voted unanimously to approve her proposal. This is important work, one professor said. Not just mathematically rigorous, but socially relevant. We need more research that bridges theory and real-world problems. Seo Yan spent the next 1.5 years working on her dissertation. She taught classes during the day, conducted research at night and on weekends. She ran simulations, analyzed data, wrote and rewrote chapters. It was exhausting, but it was also exhilarating. She was creating new knowledge, contributing to mathematics, finishing what she had started. Her mother's health declined during this time. The cancer came back, spreading despite treatment. Seo-yeon balanced dissertation work with caring for her mother. Some days were harder than others. "You should stop," her mother said one evening, weak from chemotherapy. "Take care of me full-time." "I can do both, Oma. You're exhausting yourself." "I learned from the best," Seo-yeon said, squeezing her mother's hand. "You never stopped taking care of us no matter how tired you were." Her mother smiled weakly. "I just want to see you finish. That's all I want. You will. I promise." Seo-yeon worked harder. She cut sleep. She worked every spare moment. Not just for herself. For her mother, who had carried guilt for 20 years. For Minji, who needed to see that sacrifices could lead to something beautiful. For everyone who had supported her along the way. In her final semester, Professor Kim Jin-ho from Seoul National University flew to America to visit. He was 72 now, retired, but he wanted to see his former student defend her dissertation. They met for coffee the day before her defense. He looked at her with pride. "You never gave up on mathematics," he said in Korean, "even when you had every reason to." "I gave up for 15 years, Seo-yeon said. "No. You paused. That's different. Mathematics never left you." She was waiting. "I was afraid I had lost it, that I had become someone else." Professor Kim shook his head. "You never lose what's essential. It might hide, but it's always there. You just needed the right moment to remember." The day of her dissertation defense arrived, May 15th, 2 years and 8 months after she had solved that equation on the whiteboard. The defense was held in a conference room in Building C, the same building where she had worked as a janitor. Seo-yeon felt the symmetry of that. The room was packed. Faculty members, graduate students, and some undergraduate students she had taught. Tyler sat in the front row. Dr. Chen and Professor Mitchell were on the committee. Professor Kim sat in the back, watching with a proud expression. And in the very back row sat Minji, who had flown in from law school to be there. Next to her was Seo-yeon's mother in a wheelchair, thin and fragile but determined to be present. Seo-yeon presented her dissertation. Mathematical Models for Economic Recovery in Immigrant Families, a Differential Equations Approach. She spoke for 45 minutes, explaining her research, showing her results, demonstrating the implications. Her voice was steady. Her explanations were clear. She had practiced this 100 times. Then came the questions. The committee grilled her for 90 minutes, challenging her methods, asking about limitations, probing edge cases. Seo-yeon answered everything. She had thought deeply about this work. She knew its strengths and weaknesses. She defended it confidently but humbly, acknowledging limitations while standing by her conclusions. Finally, the committee asked her to step outside while they deliberated. Seo-yeon waited in the hallway, her heart racing. Minji came out and hugged her. "You were amazing, Mom." I don't know if it was enough. It was more than enough. After 15 minutes, the door opened. Dr. Chen called her back in. Everyone was smiling. "Congratulations, Dr. Park," Dr. Chen said. "You passed with distinction." The room erupted in applause. Seo-yeon felt tears streaming down her face. She had done it. After 23 years, she had finished what she started. Professor Mitchell came forward to formally hood her, draping the doctoral regalia over her shoulders. "Welcome to the club," he said warmly. Professor Kim approached, tears in his own eyes. "I'm so proud of you," he said in Korean. "You honored yourself and your teacher today." Seo-yeon bowed deeply to him, the traditional Korean bow of respect to a teacher. She went to her mother's wheelchair. Her mother could barely speak, but she reached up and touched Seo-yeon's face. "My daughter, Dr. Park," she whispered in Korean. "I can rest now." Seo-yeon knelt beside the wheelchair, holding her mother's hand. "Thank you, Oma, for everything." Her mother passed away peacefully 2 weeks later at home with Seo-yeon holding her hand. She had lived to see her daughter achieve the dream she had sacrificed. That was enough. The formal graduation ceremony was in June. Seo-yeon wore her doctoral robes and walked across the stage. When they announced Dr. Seo-yeon Park, Doctor of Philosophy and Mathematics, the entire mathematics department section erupted in cheers. After graduation, the university offered Seo-yeon a position as an assistant professor, tenure track, teaching undergraduate and graduate courses. Continuing her research. A real academic career, she accepted. Her first semester as Professor Park, she taught 3 courses. One was undergraduate calculus in the large lecture hall. Lecture Hall 304, the same room where everything had changed. She stood at the front of that room on the first day of class, looking up at the rows of seats. She remembered standing in the back with her cleaning cart, invisible and forgotten. Now she stood at the front, visible and valued. "Good morning," she said to the 60 students watching her. "I'm Professor Park. This is Calculus 1. I'm here to help you understand mathematics. I know it can be scary, but we'll work through it together." She began teaching, and it felt like coming home. Halfway through the semester, something happened that reminded Seo-yeon of her journey. It was a Tuesday evening. Her calculus class had just ended at 8 o'clock. Students filed out, chatting and laughing. Seo-yeon erased the board and gathered her materials. She noticed someone still in the room. A young woman in the back row, cleaning. She wore a university maintenance uniform and pushed a cart with cleaning supplies. The janitor looked up and saw Seo-yeon watching her. She looked embarrassed, as if she had been caught somewhere she should not be. "Sorry, Professor. I can come back later." "No, it's fine. I'm finished." Seo-yeon picked up her bag and started to leave, but something made her pause. The woman was young, maybe 25. She had a distant look in her eyes as she stared at the equations still visible on the board. Seo-yeon walked back down the steps. "Are you interested in mathematics?" The woman looked startled. "What?" "I saw you looking at the board. Are you interested?" The woman hesitated. Then quietly, "I studied engineering. In my country, Ethiopia. But I had to leave. Family problems. Now I'm here and my degree doesn't count for anything." Seo-yeon felt her heart skip. This conversation was familiar. This moment had happened before, but with roles reversed. "What kind of engineering?" "Mechanical. I was in my 3rd year. Would you like to continue your studies?" The woman laughed bitterly. "How I work full-time. I have no money. I'm nobody here. You're not nobody. You're someone who studied engineering, someone with knowledge and potential." The woman shook her head. "It's too late for people like me." "It's never too late." Seo-yeon reached into her bag and pulled out a business card. "This is my office. Come see me during office hours. We can talk about options, programs, support, possibilities." The woman took the card slowly, looking at it with confusion. "Why would you help me?" Seo-yeon smiled. "Because someone helped me once, and now it's my turn to help someone else." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know me. I know you better than you think. I know what it's like to work this job, to have knowledge but no opportunity, to feel invisible. I know because I was you. You were a janitor for 7 years. In this building. I cleaned this exact room." The woman stared at her in disbelief. "But you're a professor now." "Yes, because someone saw me. Someone gave me a chance. Let me do the same for you." The woman wiped her eyes. "What's your name?" "Seo-yeon Park, but you can call me Professor Park. What's yours?" "Amara." "Nice to meet you, Amara. I'll see you in my office hours. Wednesday afternoon. Don't forget." Amara nodded, clutching the business card like it was precious. Seo-yeon left the lecture hall and walked through the quiet corridors of Building C. Her building now. Her home. She thought about her journey. From Seoul to America. From student to janitor to student again to professor. 23 years from the day she left her doctoral program to the day she finished it. It had been long. It had been hard. There had been moments when she wanted to give up. But she had not given up. And now, standing in this building as Professor Park instead of Seo-yeon the janitor, she understood something important. Our stories are not straight lines. They twist and turn. They pause and restart. Sometimes we lose ourselves. Sometimes we find ourselves again, but the essential part, the core of who we are, never really disappears. It waits, and when the time is right, when we are ready, it returns. Seo-yeon walked out of Building C into the warm evening air. Students crossed the campus, heading to libraries and dorm rooms. Somewhere, an elderly mother rested in peace. Somewhere, a daughter studied law. Somewhere, a young woman named Amara held a business card and considered possibilities. And here, in this moment, a mathematics professor smiled and thought about the equation that had started everything. The equation that reminded her who she was. She picked up her phone and called Minji. "Mom," her daughter answered. "Everything okay?" "Everything is perfect," Seo-yeon said. "I just wanted to tell you something." "What?" I'm happy. For the first time in 20 years, I'm truly happy. Minji's voice was thick with emotion. Good. You deserve it, Mom. You deserve all of it. We did it together, as a family. All of us. Yeah, we did. They talked for a few more minutes about small things, about nothing important. But to Seo-yeon, it was everything. Her daughter, successful and strong. Her life rebuilt and purposeful. Her dreams achieved after being deferred for so long. She hung up and looked back at Building C one last time. The windows glowed with light from classrooms and offices. Inside those rooms, people were learning and teaching and discovering. She was part of that now. Not as someone who cleaned up after knowledge was shared, but as someone who created and shared knowledge herself. Seo-yeon Park, the janitor who became a professor, walked across campus toward home. Behind her, mathematics happened. Equations were solved. Theories were developed. Students struggled and succeeded. And in Lecture Hall 304, if you looked closely at the whiteboard, you might still see faint traces of that original equation. The one that changed everything. The one that reminded everyone that genius can appear anywhere in anyone. At any time, you just have to be willing to see it, and sometimes you have to be brave enough to pick up the chalk and show the world who you really are.